Yeah, so I'll just ask you again. So what was your first memory of the cottage?
Well, my first memory was when we first got the cottage, the first winter that we came up here, because it was made that it was a year round, but it didn't have any fuel, or we had to bring up fuel in an old pickup truck in a 55-gallon drum of water because we didn't have any running water. And when we put them in the truck, my truck was so old, we tied the windows together to hold the doors shut because the doors wouldn't shut. And we came all the way up here and we started down a hill, and all of a sudden it started sliding in the snow and it went all the way clean out in the lake, and my wife is screaming, and we're gonna die, we're gonna die. And this thing spun around on the ice and we drove right back up on the property. And that was the first memory.
Cool. So what was this place like when you first saw it for the first time? Can you describe it?
Yeah, the first time when we first came here to look at it, there was trees everywhere. I mean, you can't imagine how many trees there were on this piece of property. And there was no, there was a dirt road. There was an old boat in the front of the yard they used it for a flower pot. Part of the boat was still intact, but the rest was flowers in it. It was an old wooden rowboat, actually. And the leaves were at least 6 inches deep. There was no grass whatsoever. When we raked part of it out, it was down to sand. There was no grass whatsoever. And it was like a giant forest where trees were everywhere. So first thing my dad decided to do is we're going to have to clear some of these trees so the sun gets to the house and doesn't have all the dew on the building, and maintenance would be easier. And he wanted to grow grass. So we started, it took us weeks and weeks. So we did a little spot at a time and hauled all the leaves out of here, and then he started planting grass and we got grass. So that's where we started.
Cool. And why do you think Grandpa Conley, why do you think your mom and dad wanted to get this place so bad?
The reason my mom and dad wanted to get this place is because they thought if we had a nice place where the whole family could come up and enjoy and have fun, take stress off of your jobs, bring the kids up. It was a place for a family to get together and have a lot of fun, a lot of laughter. And we did just that. We had card games. We took the kids out in the woods and hunted wolf and poofs. And Halloween, we carved pumpkins. It was definitely a family cottage where everybody came up here to enjoy one another, and I think it should stay that way to this day.
Can you describe to me a wolf and poof hunt?
Well, the wolf and poof hunt was just like what they call a snipe hunt, but my dad named it wolf and poof. And you go out in the woods and you give the kids a bag, and then you take them out there at night with a flashlight, and you tell them to get down on the ground with this bag, and you wait there, and we're going to go circle around and we're going to chase these wolf and poofs, and they're going to run right into that bag. And then when we would leave them, we would make all kinds of noise, and they would jump up, start screaming, and run back to the cottage because they were afraid of the wolf and poof that was never there anyway.
Cool. And can you talk about maybe some of the card games that were up here?
Well, we had a lot of card games. In fact, sometimes we would be getting too loud, and my dad would go downstairs and get the duct tape, and especially the women. He'd put duct tape on their mouths so they couldn't say nothing, so he could play cards. We played a lot of cards. We played, Herbie was the biggest game up here at the time because it's simple. It was only 3 cards. You couldn't miss on that. So it was just a fun thing and a lot of laughter, and we could tell jokes and still concentrate on 3 cards. So it lasted years and years up here at Herbie.
Cool. Can you tell me anything about some of the stuff that I was too young for, like some of the reunions and like some of the games and like pumpkin carving stuff?
I tell you, one of the funniest things that happened to us, and so you know the nature of my dad, or the old bear, is when we first got this place, there was Doug, Ronnie, Raleigh, and I were the 3 guys and our wives, and we bought an old sailboat. We took that sailboat out and we were sailing around and having a good time with it. Well, the one day we were here and we were drinking, all 4 of us drinking quite a bit, and here comes a storm. So we said we're going to take the sailboat out and go sailing. And my dad said, no, don't do that because the storm's coming up and it won't be good. So we did it anyway. And a storm came up and that sailboat was flying across the lake and it got going so fast it flipped over. And all of us went out of the boat and every one of us come up still holding our beer. And my dad was on shore hollering at us. So we ended up getting back to shore, and then we went out with a boat because the top of the sail was still sticking out of the water. So we dragged the thing back in, and we got the neighbors to help us. We dragged it up on shore, and by that he said, "That's enough. You know, it's getting late at night. The storm was already here." And we went into the cottage, and everybody did normally. We had a card game and had a good time. Woke up the next morning, and there was a heck of a bonfire. And I told my brother, I says, what in the world has Dad started a bonfire already for this morning? And we looked out there, here's our rowboat. He lit the rowboat and burned it up so we wouldn't do that again and never get hurt. End of the rowboat.
Could you tell me about Grandpa Conley's his nickel trick on the table when he Annie?
Oh yeah, he would, I don't know how he did it, but he would have this nickel in his hand. When we go to Annie, he would snap it, and it's like he Annied in, and nothing would ever go down. He'd just go, I'm in, and the nickel was still in his hand, but it sounded like he flipped it on the table, but it never did. That, and then his genuine fart machine he made. He took some pieces of wire, and he twisted up the rubber band between two pieces of wire, and then he'd sit on it. And the kids used to say, Grandpa, how come you always win? He says, because it's the way you fart. And the kids said, what do you mean the way you fart? And he'd lift up and then that rubber band go like that. And they believed him. So they're trying to fart. And he says, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. The kids would run up. They pushed so hard they had to go to the bathroom. But then finally they caught on to it. So then we got in trouble with the women with that because he was making this fart machine and these kids were getting into this little fart machine he had. And we carried that on for a long time till everybody got wind of it and understood it. But always the prankster, always had the games. He's the one that came up with the airplane ride that most of the kids that are at this cottage finally one day or another was on an airplane ride, which has always been funny. And ironically, it was on what's that program?
Funniest Home Videos?
Yeah, Funniest Home Videos. It was on there, and they won a prize with it. Somebody doing the same thing we did, the airplane ride, where they thought they were going up in the air and they fall off. They're only about an inch off the ground.
Can you explain to me what the airplane ride is?
Well, the airplane ride is you get a board, and you get two people, one on each side of the board, and then you get somebody standing behind them. Well, when you bring the kids into the room, they're blindfolded, and you tell them you're going to take them on an airplane ride, and you're going to go up high, and then when we holler bail out, you got to bail out because the plane's going to crash. So they're wiggling this board, and they're not more than an inch off the ground, but it's when you're blindfolded, it's a funny sensation, and the person behind them has a book and touches their head. Oh, he's all the way up to the ceiling. He's all the way up to the ceiling. Bail out, bail out. And they think they're going to just fall from the top of the ceiling down. And they're right there on the ground anyway. So it was a pretty hilarious the way they fall. And that was another fun game we did.
Cool. A couple more questions. So where did the name Old Bear's Den come from, and what kind of meaning do you think it has around the lake here and stuff?
Oh, wait a minute. The Old Bear's Den. Well, the old Bear itself started with Raleigh's and my race car. We decided to build a race car, and my dad was crabbing. He'd always crab about safety and this, and you got to do this and you got to do that. Well, we named the car the Old Bear, and we have a picture of the bear on the car, and that's, I think, pretty much where it started, and it carried on from then, because when we bought this cottage, it was called the Bear's Den, and it's been the Old Bear since the days we raced our cars. He was always crabbing at us and hollering at us about something because we always did something wrong, so he got the name the Old Bear.
Cool. And what do you think? What is I'll whip this off real quick. What do you think make this place? What do you think makes it so special?
I think the most special part of this cottage is keeping the family together and being able to associate with each other and love each other and do things together. There's nothing better than family. My mom and dad brought us up that way, and that was the purpose of buying the cottage in the first place. That we have a lot of fun together. We do a lot of things together. It's keeping family together and showing there is happiness in the world. Not everything has to be serious and not everything has to be wrong. It's showing that it's a place to go and have a good time with the entire family. Everybody's welcome.
Cool. Do you have anything else to say? I mean, I think that's good for now. I'll get you again later.
Yeah, I think of more things.
Thank you though.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.